Yeah, so with the open book exam, you don't have to study word for word, but you have to know where certain things are then, right? It's like like you have to know where the duty of the employer is at. You'll have to know where moral, legal, and financial it at. Like those are some of the famous concepts then. It's called an open book exam because you can actually use your book, even though the book is of some help, right? I mean, most of the questions, the answers are really in the case study, but you can use it hand in hand. Oftentimes, if a question is asked about, I could use something simple like the indirect cost of an accident. You can get to page 4, page 5, and you'll see them. But of course, remember, listing them is not the answer because you have to tie it into the case study, right? There are two things I want to officially mention today before we begin, and it will be on the recording as well. But of course, we know that you all are busy. Everybody is sort of busy. No one really has, but some people do, and that's why I'm prone to give you 2 weeks off, which is sort of customary anyway. It's nice to finish 2 weeks before the syllabus is actually like before the exam so that you'll kind of catch yourself anyway, right? Those of us who have to go back and review the videos. If you're not getting time to look at it, you want to review those videos and to kind of keep on top of things anyway, right? And I can safely, I know for sure, like I said, looking at the schedule now, that we'll finish in 2 weeks from now because chapter 4 till is 2 weeks long, right? And that is with past papers, really. Chapter 4 is shorter than that, right? Chapter 4 is like chapter 2. Ideally, you could finish chapter 4 in one go, right? You could check it out in your textbook. It's very short, right? But that's with pacifiers, right? And so 2 weeks, somebody 17, we can have a kind of well, actually, I don't know if you know this. So let me see. I was trying to kill some time there. There's some things I have to mention to you. 15 persons in, right? So I may have to do an official email with this. So Nibosh requires, I don't know if you want to start writing. And one of them I'll need your help with. Yes, I need your help with something big, right? So I'll leave that for last. Really have nothing to do with me. I guess those of us who know what's going on will know what's going on anyway, right? And so number 3, I'll leave that for that, right? So a couple of things. I think, like I said, Nibosh requires a mock exam. Yes, they require a mock exam. So that's sort of proposing the 17th for your mock exam because you have to get feedback, right? And that means your work have to be corrected. They have called it in twice for this year already, right? Now the mock exam has no bearing on the final exam. So please, I want you all to know this because I hear some comments sometimes that students thought the mock exam was a part of the final. And this is kind of crazy, right? I mean, so NIBOSH doesn't really have any coursework. So the mock exam is kind of just meant to kind of prepare you for the final. It really has no bearing on the final, right? So you could do the best mock exam and still not make the mark in the final, and vice versa. You could probably have something going on the 17th of August, right? And you caught up in that. Things happen, right? Family, friends, right? Things happen, right? Sickness, right? And you could probably do like a horrible mock exam and pass the final, right? So the mock exam have nothing to do with the final. The only thing is that they require a mock exam, and they have used it for a couple of reasons. So I want to say this as fast as I could, and you could write it down. So one of the reasons is if somebody was suspected of plagiarism, they call in the mock exam, right? And so like if somebody had Nibosh has a Turnitin software, not too sure if you know that. I mentioned that in orientation, right? So they Turnitin software and it rates a percentage of plagiarism. So if your percentage is high, meaning that you took a lot of stuff from the book or from my notes and you didn't paraphrase it and stuff, right? Even for the project. And so like they will call in the mock exam to kind of see how you write. Um the mock exam doesn't save anybody though, right? It's not as if it saves anybody because like the rule they operate with is like if the plagiarism percentage is high, but then you are caught in plagiarism, right? The mock exam doesn't save anybody, but in a way, I'm just telling you as it is, they call it a mock exam. So could you all put that down? The 17th of August is the mock exam. And what we normally do, I normally give you about 2 questions to do, right? So we don't give you a whole paper because remember, a whole paper takes you a whole day. And then we don't want to put you through that torture twice. You already have that torture waiting for you on the day of your exam in September. NIBOSH has to confirm that day, right? As I'm saying, the day of the exam, it's not going to be the first Wednesday. It's up to them to say if it's the first Wednesday, right? I don't set these dates. They will set them, right? So um I'm admitting some people, right, which is why I kind of paused there a bit, right? So the 17th of August, you log on, I will email you a paper and you get 2 questions done. Um, really the actual exam is not supervised. So the mock exam is not really supervised. But what we have been doing, we have been asking you to log on, and I normally would have somebody look at you, right? When you are finished, we give you like an hour and a half to do 2 questions. You email those questions back to Shadrach Safety Institute, and that is what is counted as your mock exam. Once I'm wrong, because I have some work doing in some other countries, I would try to correct as much as I could. I would love to give you all feedback within a week time, because if you really do need some help in your writing still, we want to give you that feedback. But most of us here, you all have had it many times. Today is saying it yet again, that every answer must have an answer and you must tie it into the case studies. If a question is worth 10 marks, you give them 10 responses. If a question is worth 20 marks, you give them 20 responses. You all have had enough of that. Again, we have said that many times to you all. Yesterday, though, I did a closing interview with a student from Guyana, one of our students. And he had some good answers, but when I read it, he just had one answer. So, like for a 10 mark question, he put one answer, right? And he's in the same class that I teach it. We teach the same thing, it's just me, right? And so I couldn't tell him anything, right? So yeah, you will have an interview after your exam, a one-on-one interview, but it's like a week after, right? So we get to know like what you'll do in the exam and stuff. Anyway, mock exam. The next thing, and no, it's not just three, right? I just had to mention three top priorities anyway, right? The next thing is your project. So you need to keep them coming. I think you all have not done too well with this. Some of you all have. I'm not too sure if you all fully understand why. Remember, there is actually a deadline for this that NIBOSH would want your project. But now, when I say now, and 2 weeks from 2 weeks ago, because it's not now we did the project, we did the NG2 project, probably more than 2 weeks straight, well, 3 weeks ago, from part one. And if you come from part one, part two, part three, part four, you should have had it in already, right? And so I did see two this week. They were going good, great. But what about the rest of you, right? And remember, like, why I say that is that you have to remember that is a day coming when we have to send it to NIBOSH, right? So that's actually the same time frame as your exam. So there's a day coming when you send it, we wouldn't be able to check it. We'll just be able to send it because your time then and my time to review it would have gone, right? So this is what we say to you all, and coming to the end of the semester, we don't like to sound too much, like a mean person, but this is the fact of NIBOSH then, right? That if you send it after the deadline and we cannot review it, we just have to take it and send it to NIBOSH, right? So we have said to you all, try to get it done. It's such a simple project. Some of the things I have, like I corrected one this week. I think it had to be this class. Now we have a class in Guyana too. So yeah, I think it had to be this class, man, right? That I mean, from the look of it, it looked okay, but when you started to get in it, you could have tell the person didn't follow the guidance and the sample. Because there's a lot of stuff wrong. They were like hazards, which is like that's breaking the 10 commandments of NIBOSH, right? Like using hazards that are not on the hazard sheet. Because that's like a show fail, right? Actually, I think one was some guy, because I remember the student, which is I wouldn't call her name, but I could see her face and I know she's in Guyana, right? She put water as a hazard. Water. What do you think about that, right? So I could ask the question, is water on the NEBOSH list? Now, water could be a hazard. I'm not saying no. And this is my response to that class, that water probably is a hazard, but who cares,
Makes
right?
it
And
on the list.
remember, right, it's not on the list. And that's the thing. Remember, I told you how this project is. This project is, I've had creative ways to say it. I don't want to say those creative ways now, but I'll say it a decent way, which is just give them what they ask you for, right? When you have finished the project and you have the cert in your hand, could I show you something? Could I show you something? You see all these things here? These are certificates that came this week for students who are on the last class that passed. I'll show you one. Maybe you know this came here yesterday. The FedEx envelope probably still in the dustbin, right? You know, so when you have the certs in your hand, this is what a cert looks like. This is the actual cert from NEBOSH, right? I got two batch yesterday for those who know we offer. Well, you all know we do many courses, right? By now, you also know Shadrach Safety is not a one subject school. So we do IOSH managing safety. There's a course that I brought here to Trinidad and Tobago. A batch of certificates came here. So this is Shakti. So, like, by the way, I shouldn't be showing you all this on the recording, but well, I could show you the name, but I don't think I can show you the whole set because it's a serial number on this that you're not supposed to see. That's like the man's serial number. That's his serial number. So I just showed you that. So it's come with people. Look how much I have here, right? It's a whole, by the way, it's a whole bag. I'll show you what I'm talking about just now. Let me just put this one back, right? So like when you get this cert in your hand, that guy Shakti and him was a class before you all. Them no finish, right? It's a whole bag. Yeah, and Michael and Jody's bag, yeah. No offense there, but that's that's the bag I put it in, right? So like when you get your cert in your hand, you could do whatever you want to do in your company. If your company tell you water is a hazard, fine, right? Fine, water is a hazard. But when you're doing NEBOSH, yeah, it's like it's like they have you in a corner there, right? It's like what they tell you to do, you have to do, right? So like you are limited then in your hazard choices, right? So anyway, I just shouting out some as we on the project here because I wanted to do it, but I don't want you to do it wrong because it means now that you wouldn't pass, right? So just shouting for the week, some of the things I've seen. I've seen some time scales. Again, I think I mentioned that last week that had ongoing like in it, right? Remember the time scale must be a number. Ongoing is not a number. It's ONGOING. That's not a number, right? The time scale must be a number. What again I saw? Some people are not doing the third column properly. The third column doesn't have much. If you remember, the third column, it don't really have much in the third column, right? But still, you have to do it properly, right? So the third column says existing controls, right? So you have to put an existing control, but you have to put it properly, right? You can't just put dust mass. I just make up that one, right? That's not really what somebody had. But you can't just put dust mass because what does that say? Is dust mass available? Is it that you are saying dust mass have to be implemented? What about dust mass? Right? So when you do that third column, yes, I know the third column is a simple column, but do it in a way. It's supposed to say, it's supposed to read as the one in the sample. Dust mass are available, but remember the third column has a kind of but about it, but it is not mandatory that they are worn. And that's actually the same one from of the NEBOSH sample, right? The key to it, again, if you want me to kind of describe it in some kind of phrase, which it shouldn't because I told the whole thing and it's on YouTube. But maybe some kind of phrase to help you remember that how to do that project. The answer would be it should be a dead copy of the sample, but it should not be plagiarized. So a dead copy means you could copy the idea of it, but don't copy it because they will catch you for plagiarism, right? So read it. I've always said that read what they have. Read it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, then try to say it over in your own words. If the sample have dust mask available, but it is not mandatory that they should be worn, you should have something like that. You could say, sorry, you could say if your thing was, let's just say slips and trips, because that's how they should have said water, right? Instead of saying water, they should have said slips and trips, right? So then you could say something like, having red dust mask available. So you could say something like, the cleaner mops regularly, or the cleaner mops once a week, but this may not be sufficient to capture all the water on the floor. Something like that, right? So that's what it says. It must be a copy, but it cannot be plagiarized. It's a dead copy of what they have, but it cannot be plagiarized. So you have to use your senses and you have to use your intellect to pass this exam. Follow the example. I've told you this like a teacher teaching primary school maths. If they give you 2 by 2, 4, and now they give you, yes, let's say, I guess 3 by 3, you have to put it down in the same way, right? So put it down in the same way. They had it like maybe the 2 on top times the 2 underneath. Put it like that. So you're doing the same formatting, but it's a different one altogether, right? Folks, do you all have any questions on that? So just ask away. In a way, we are up to 21 now, so it must have somebody with a question. What are you all going through? Are you all going through anything at all? If not, it means you're not doing your project. But if you're doing your project, it means, yeah, we're here for you. Remember, this is not, I mean, if it sounds anyway harsh, it's better you take it like this because it's the truth, right? So like there's no way to water down the truth. Speaking of water, right? So there's no way to water down the truth. Without doing it the right way, you would not pass this project. But look how much people pass. And all they had to do was do what they had to do, right? So it's best you hear it. And I try and the best way to say it and not make it sound harsh. But remember, I am not Nibosh, and that's good, right? And if I was Nibosh, then, well, number one, I wouldn't be here. But if I was Nibosh, like you all wouldn't come, because remember, you want that globally recognized cert. You want that cert that is in demand. You want that cert that is not just your Cipriani or your Costard certificate or your UE certificate. You want the one that's globally recognized. You want the one that, like I said, that you could move out of here with and get into another job, another country, etc. I don't know if I told you the story of Troydell. If you're probably fed up here if I didn't say it already. But just a long story short, I taught a Guyanese student just about last year. He got through with a company in Guyana. And then when I went in Guyana this month, he was not there. Somebody told me he went to the UK. And then he called me, strange enough, if I didn't tell you the story last week, he called me last week. I saw a +44 number call, and I thought it was Nibosh, but it wasn't. It was Troydell. And he said he got through. So from not working to Gisby, which is in Guyana, and then very shortly, about 6 months into that, he is now the safety manager for a company in the UK, and they are making a ship. He said they're making a ship like the Titanic. So it's like a 15-year project he's on, and he's the safety manager, right? So take his story now, right? Like you had to earn the thing, right? But Nibosh is not Cipriani. You can't just get it by giving me a haphazard draft. You can't just get it by taking an hour and a half class and you never open your textbook. You ever open your second textbook class? Have you ever opened your second textbook? Yeah, you all paid money for it. If you open it, I guess if you don't want it, you can give me back. Everybody don't want the textbook. I have a donation. I can give me back your book. Please, right? Please give it back. If you think you're going to leave it there, please give it back. I would find good uses of it anyway. Also, we are open to donations. I told you this. We have a building project. We are starting a new. This is not a joke, by the way. I've said this before, right? I probably need to open a separate account for that and let all our thousands of students over the years let them know, because they know as well. I started from scratch. I told you all that. I am not rich. I started from those of us who know me from Santa Flora side, all in Santa Flora, all. I could call every number 33, number 7 road. I could call the oil field wells because that's where I started from. But I wasn't a supervisor and I was cutting grass and what they call pipe fitting, right? That's what I used to be doing, right? So that's me. Yeah. So this is not a joke at all. We have secured a piece of land and we are looking, we did the building plans. Up to this week, I got one of the final letters, some regional cooperation. It got through for tongue and country already, which is approvals. And yeah, we are going to start a building, right? And so if you know you have monies to waste and you're not using your textbook, give me, I'll sell it back and I'll put it towards the school building project, right? We are not government funded, as you all know. We have never been. I've never received GATE. GATE doesn't cover the DBOSH courses. Anything we have here is things that I create, or businesses that come from you, the student, or businesses that come from the outside anyway, right? So with that said, folks, what about you, right? What about you? How is your project going? What questions do you have? I mean, we want you all to pass. Wouldn't it be nice, right? Wouldn't it be nice? A dream? Wouldn't it be nice that we can say we have 100% passes on the project? It happened before, but you all had to act. You had to start acting. You had to start sending in those drafts, right? Getting your feedback, right? Fixing up whatever you have to fix. Yes, we all have something to fix, right? With this project, we work with you until the day NIBOR says send it. And the day they say send it, we send it, right? At that point in time, please remember, my checking of your project is not a guarantee because I've said I'm not NIBOSH. The examiner can still see something that they don't agree with. One of them, though, I think, I mean, I can't say because remember, examiners are subjective. Sometimes they question what you put down there on the paper. So that is something I cannot judge. But I could judge if you leave out the date. I can judge if you leave out, like you put the wrong hazard. I could judge that. But it's not a guarantee. So please remember that, right? Filtering it through me is good, but it's not a guarantee of a pass. So keep that in mind, right? The final examiners is NIBOSH, and that's good, I tell you. That's why you want this certificate, because this has changed my life and it will change your life, right? As it changed Troy their life, the one story that I mentioned today. Folks, what comments you have on the project? So while you're thinking about that, just give me a minute. All right. So yeah, any questions on the project, anyone? No? Okay. So the third thing I want to mention, right, is that this should have been the first thing, but I need to work my way up to it. So the third thing is that you all know Trinidad and Tobago has a shortage for foreign exchange, right? And you may wonder, well, what does this have to do with me? Well, NIBOSH is not from here, and paying your exam fee is a foreign purchase, right? So what we are going to ask officially is, I think next week, Saturday, is your day to pay your exam fee. What we are asking is those of us who have a credit card, access to a credit card, that you all could try to get your exam fees paid with your credit card. However, what I'll want to do right later in the week here. Now, I think this week I have a rush job in Guyana. So I'm flying out just to get the job done and come back. I'm coming back, I think, on Friday, right? I'm just waiting on some final confirmation from my company across there. But the long and short of this is that I want to message you all and I wanted to tell me, I probably will call you all by Monday. Monday I'm here, right? And I wanted to tell me those who have access to a card, because that's a sure way of getting the exam fees paid, right? You all by now you know, right? You should know what's going on in Trinidad. Do you know though that the foreign exchange is only that shortage is only in Trinidad? Guyana have US running like crazy, right? Guyana have no shortage for US, right? So the banks have limited the purchases, and those of us who have a card, we would allow you to pay with the card. Now, the payment is not on a machine. The payment is via, but it's a message to tell is my laptop, because there's a link then. So I would have to link into the NEBOSH intranet, and there's a payment screen on the NEBOSH intranet. You cannot do it. I will show you when you come. You could only log in as a course provider, right? Which is me. They have no link for students at the moment. So you log in as me, as if I was paying it, and you is a payment screen. So enter your name, you enter your number, and you make your purchase, right? And now to do that, we are going to have you all do like a schedule. What does that mean? It means if you plan to do it next week, Saturday, or even the other week, because if you were paying me cash, you remember you got you? Very good, right? So yeah. So if you're paying cash, remember I had to go to get the pounds now. Anyway, a long story short, it doesn't have to be next week, Saturday alone. It could be the whole of the other week, right? Yes. Yeah. Good. Yes. Yeah. So it could be the whole of the other week. Meaning, I don't know if you want to take that down. The whole of the week after next week, Saturday. So anytime you are willing to and you have your card, we can make an appointment. We can say then, like, Kimberlina, let me check my calendar. We can say, I'm just making up something, right? Just to give you an idea. So we can say, Kimberlina, you could come in on the 20th of August. Hopefully, yeah, because NEBOSH have a deadline for this thing too. No, the 20th will be too late. Um, Next week, Saturday is the 3rd, right? So we can say, Kimberlina, you can come in on Monday at 12 p.m., right? It takes about 5 minutes. It's just for me to log on the intranet, right? We can see another student. We can say, Desiree, you can come Monday at 1 p.m. So when you come, it's just you alone here with the intranet then, right? Now, if you don't have a card, we will have to try to get the pounds, right? So we hope that we can probably split it half and half, where maybe half of you have access. It doesn't have to be a big credit card. The exam fee is about 1,700 TT, right? For those who may have paid full already, if you have a card, fine, we can give you back some sort of, we'll give you back the 1,700 once you get through with the transaction. But a lot of you all didn't pay the fee as yet, right? So once your card, a typical card could take about, I think, maybe 5,000 TT, but the exam fee is 1,700, right? So once a card could cover that, that should be safe enough, right? So if you want, leave it to me a bit. So all I wanted to think about is, do I have a card and could I get a card? That's for you to think about. Monday, I will try to message you all and we'll try to see those who have a card. You'll tell me yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, right? And then we'll try to, once we get the yeses, we'll try to confirm like a day that you could come in to get the payment done. And that's a way to pay them directly, right? Now, I don't think there's any catch on it, but there may be the foreign fee the bank will charge your card. It shouldn't be much, right? I think it should end up being the same 1,700 TT dollars anyway. Don't quote me on that because I'm not the bank. I'm just telling you how the situation is with foreign exchange on the island at the moment, right? What do you all think? If you think at all, but it's something we have to do, right? Based on what is happening. I think the bank's cutting it down even more now. This week I saw Royal Bank cutting down even more, right? And it's already so hard, right, to get the fees, but this is the situation that we are in anyway, right? So please help us out with that. We will try as well. Like I said, if we get maybe 10 person doesn't have a card, we can try to get that 10. But those who have a card, also if you have a friend in class or you have a family member, you can ask them, right? If there's somebody that have one, because I am going to use ours, but we want to try to split it as much as we could, right? And then those who have cards, very good, is going to help us out a bit as opposed to getting that currency anyway, right? All right, with that said, we had to say it on the recording because, people may not all be here. We had to say everything we had to say. Normally, these kind of logistics, we don't say it on the recording, but this is the truth of the matter. Even if NEBOSH, because NEBOSH listens to these videos as well, this is the truth of the matter on the island. They may not understand it, but it is the truth. Trinidad and Tobago, we are limited in how much foreign purchases we can make. We cannot pay for everybody. That's the truth, though. We can't pay for everybody on the school's account. But we could. The school account have money, but we can't because it have nothing to do with the school account. It have to do with the fact that the government has restricted how much you can pay for then in any, at any given month, right? And if September is your payment, September is your month, sorry, you have to pay by August, right? Questions, anybody? Anybody in the banking sector here want to shed some light? Yeah, so the TT dollars, like somebody just come and pay, right? But that's another course, thank God. It's not for exam. The TT dollars right now, remember, it don't really come to me now. I had to go back to NIBOSH, the exam fee. So when you pay here, this is not NIBOSH. It doesn't magically turn into pounds when you pay here. Right? So you'll keep that in mind. I think you'll understand what we are faced with. Folks, you'll have nothing to say. Well, I would ask you all to all come and join my degree class. Anyway. Yeah, if anybody's interested, by the way, we have the NIBOSH diploma starting at the end of September. Again, I kid you not, I only have about 4 more seats, right? And I'm trying. Yeah, if you have a question, ask and I'll give a comment because I'm ready to start. But as I mentioned, remember, this is the only center for the. Yeah, I only have 4 more seats now. Watch it here for yourself. Again, you all feel this is September diploma, right? This is a rough list here. September diploma. Watch the number we are on, number 16. Only 4 more seats in this batch. I think a student in this class put her name on it, Nairi Joseph, right? Isn't it? But some of these students are mine. Some remember we are the only center for it. So we take people from Cipriani, Costa sometimes. Some of these, most of these are mine, but I'm seeing some like there's a guy, Diraj, I don't know him. He's from another school, but we don't turn away anybody now, right? If you want to get into that anyway. All right, folks, let's start, right? So the last class we had, we'd have looked at safe systems of work. Well, the last class we wrapped up the project. Part 4 is on the recording. And hopefully you all made your notes as well. And we did safe systems of work. Just to say that a safe system of work was a safe way for doing a job, right? Like when I told you I'm heading out to do some training, yeah, what the company wants is that they want like something called task-based risk assessment training, right? But task-based risk assessment is actually a JSA. Watch it for yourself. Watch this slide. What is this word? This word, like this word is what? Task, right? A task-based risk assessment is also called a JSA. Watch it. Task, but you do a risk assessment in it. A task-based risk assessment is like a JSA, right? Anyway, so what a safe system of work was you take a task, you break it down into some steps. The book had a nice acronym for this. I don't know if you remember it. CRIDA. If you want, I can tell you about the page. This was last week work, of course. Today we're moving on to permit, right? But CRIDA, that sort of acronym, you'll find it. Let me get a page here, right? You'll find it on page 52. Yeah, page 52. You'll see their task analysis is the heading, right? And so like you take a task and you break it down into some steps. At every step you consider what's the hazard. With every hazard, you consider the risk. With every risk, you consider the safe way of doing the job. So a safe system of work is a safe way of doing that same job, right? We talked about it is not be done by a team of persons. They need to be competent, right? And when you finish with your JSA, you need to train the workers on how to use it, right? And so today we're moving on. If you want to move on with the book as well, today's permit to work, right? So you can turn the pages a bit. You'll see PTW as a heading, 3.7, permit to work. And that is what we're going to finish off. And from permit to work is going to lead into emergency rescue. Just turn the page and you see what I'm talking about. From 3.7, you'll see 3.8, because by the time you start the permit, one of the heading on a permit then is emergency rescue. So that's why if you look at the book, you see 3.7 goes into 3.8. And from there, it's about emergency rescue, and then 3.9, and then chapter 3 is finished. Right? So, but that's your textbook, right? Remember, there's a syllabus. So like the point system doesn't line up on the syllabus, right? The syllabus has permit to work as 3.9. All right, so what's a permit to work? They say a permit to work is a specialized type of safe system of work. So a permit is a safe system of work. Therefore, a permit is a safe way for doing a job, right? Use where the potential, let me add in somebody, where the potential risks are high and careful coordination of activities and precautions is essential for safe working, right? So let's read it again. A permit to work is a safe system of work, but it's like a different form then. It's like a different thing to this. And what makes it different? If you pick it up, anybody can say what makes it different? What makes like an activity then? Like when do you know then, like, should I get a normal JSA? Or do I need to get this special type of the safe system of work called a permit to work or a PTW? How do you know which activity require which form? The answer is in this couple of lines right here. Anybody know the answer? You can read it from here and you'll actually get it. When do you use a permit to work?
When potential risks are high.
Right, when the risks are high, right? And so you could think now in the companies is different. There are some companies that use a permit for everything. Housekeeping permit, mopping the floor permit, parking permit. But what they're doing, they're actually abusing that document then, right? A permit is not meant for all activities. If you were, like the general activities is your GSA, right? But if the risk is high, then you need a permit to work, right? Now, not really NIBOSH. I shouldn't really say shouldn't really say like NIBOSH, but the authors of this then, right? Which is actually one of the laws in the UK. So I guess it's the HSC. They actually told you what is high risk, and if you want to watch your book, you'll see it. They didn't really leave it for you to guess. We'll go back to 3.7. If you check your book, you'll see they actually tell you the activities that require a permit. See if you see it and see if you could shout some for me before, because I turned my book back anyway. But if you find the book, you'll see it. They'll actually tell you that. They'll actually tell you the activities that require a permit. So a permit is meant for high risk activities. You check it in your book, 3.7, page 56 now. Shout out one for me for those who seen it. So they didn't leave it to chance. They actually, so you know what activities require a permit. Anybody
So
seen
I
it?
don't have my book. So I don't have my book with me, but I think hot work is a high risk
Yeah,
activity.
hard work is actually the first one. So like you have your book, but you say you don't have it, right?
No,
But hard
no,
work
I
is the
don't, I don't,
first one.
I don't even, I don't have my book with
You
me.
know I'm joking, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so hard work. Then you have work at height. You all seen the list? Confined space entry, work on operational pipelines, excavation near buried services, and the last one here, maintenance work on large complex machinery, right? So they give you an idea then, right? And just stop and think about one. Now, the reason to think about one is because there's actually one on your syllabus, right? Which is confined space. So if somebody is, and you can find confined space too, if you check the book, they really only did one, right? They have like page 60, you have confined spaces there. They have a case study, a couple of case studies, right? So if you think of, I guess, what is a confined space, right? And that is on the slides, a confined space. You could think of it as a vessel, a tank. A tank may be the best example where you have to enter a tank. Of course, you do have large pipelines and manholes and cylinders, and I guess all of those are classed as confined spaces, right? So if somebody have to work in a confined space, then, well, the risk is high because they are in a, like they could succumb to some sort of breathing difficulty.
Application.
Yeah, asphyxiation. The place may be hot. So that activity, if you see it here, requires a special kind of form then, right? And today we're going to talk about what is special about the form. I'm just going to pause in a bit so you can digest what I'm telling, right? So today, yeah, there's actually something special about the form. If you follow that form, it could actually save your life. It could. It would. That's what they didn't use in Paria. Actually, they use it, but they use it the wrong time. For those of us who know the incident at Paria, the permit would have saved everybody. Yes, a piece of paper could have saved their life. I'll show you how just now. How could a paper save your life? A paper is not Superman. But how could a paper save your life? It could have. It would have. It should have, I guess, right? But they didn't. They actually had it, right? Paria had permits, but what they used to do now, this is things that was on the Commission of Inquiry, which was publicized on Facebook and YouTube and whatever have you, right? So it's public knowledge, right? This is not confidential information. You can go back and look at those things, right? And you'll see what was said coming out of the inquiry into that accident anyway. That they had the permit, but they would fill it out when they come out of the dive. So like they will do the work first, then like when they come out, when you have nothing to do, a lot of companies do that. Like when it's 3:30 in the evening and you have nothing to do, well, they would say, well, finish off the paperwork and we'll sign it off. And that's what they used to do. But if we're saying then this piece of paper, because a permit is a paper, is meant to do the work in a safe way, because it's a safe system of work. It's a way of getting the high risk done, that high risk work done in a safe way. Watch it there. For safe working. Then if they had followed what was on it, it would have saved their life. Now, it's not up to me to show you all the headings on the permit. If you watch your book though, the book has some. Still watch your book. And I'll probably write about 8 for you, which is more than the textbook. But you can look at your book, right? Page 57. If we have the same book, I think. Confined spaces on page 60, of course, right? But if you look at your book, you would see like what it is about that form then that could have saved your life. Well, it's a different form. So I want to go back and show you something. It's not the same as the GSA. So it doesn't have the same heading then. If you can see this, let me just bring this up a bit bigger. It doesn't have the same heading as CRIDM, which is what you find with the GSA. It doesn't have job steps. It may have hazards, it may have risk, but it have some new headings. If you watch page 57, you'll see it. I'll just show the ones in the book first because those are the easiest one. It doesn't mean it's the best one, but it's the one that you could see in your textbook then, right? So on this form now, some of the headings is a bit different, right? So just to show the ones in your book, you see issue. You see that on page 57 and page 56. You would see receipt. You would see clearance, cancellation. Those are the 4 the book have, but that's not the best headings on the form, right? Let me give you the best headings on the form, right? So the best heading in the form, let me just read this slide for you, all right? And then I'll get to the headings because the headings on them are here, right? So the overall responsibility should be with one person, and that is the person who gives the permit. That person is called the authorized person, right? So if you don't know about permit to work, so the person that gives you the permit is called an authorized person. Or authorization is the heading on the permit, and the person have to sign there. If authorization is not signed, well, you shouldn't start your work. You shouldn't get in that vessel. And from that alone, I should say that could have saved the divers in Paria because nothing was signed. They were not authorized to be in that dive then, right? Anyway, formal, yeah, it's a formal form. It's systematic, so it have different headings you have to follow. And those headings, if you follow them, they are meant to control the high-risk activity. Yes, it's a vessel. Yes, it's working at height. Yes, it's a confined space. Yes, it's an electrical line. But if you follow those headings and you did what you had to do, like the first thing on a permit, right? It's actually here, and if you want, I could show you before I read all of this. The first thing on the permit is the word isolate. Isolate. Other than what task you're doing, like, like what was your task if it's cleaning a tank or painting the inside of a tank or working at a high tension line. The first word is well, not the first word, but other than the task. The first main thing you have to do is isolate, right? And so that's formal. That's one of the main things you have to do. And if you isolate, so the question is, what does isolation mean? Right? So isolation mean turning off the energy supply and preventing it from being turned back on.
Lockout, tag out.
Isolate. Yeah, lockout, tag out. So if you were in a vessel, right, you know what happened in that dive? An adjacent contractor put on a line that created the suction back into the line. But if you had isolate the line, then there was no way for turning it on back on. Or how do they do that? But for those who know lockout, tag out, what they actually do, there's actually a device. It's not in this course. I should have shown you a picture. But it's like a clamp, right? When I tell you we used to do pipe fitting, it's like a clamp. A clamp, like if you have a valve head, there's like a clamp you put on the valve head and you lock it, right? It's like if you want to put your Pac-Man, for those who don't know what a clamp is that you can clamp a line. Like if a line was leaking, the clamp is like that. You can put the clamp on the line and then you tighten it, right? If a clamp have a leak, so sorry, not the clamp, but if the pipeline have a leak, you just put the clamp on the line and you slide it over where the leak is, and then you tighten the bolts on them. The clamp inside, you have packing of rubber and whatever happens. It holds on the leak there, so the leak wouldn't leak, right? But they do something like that with the valve head. So like if they say isolate all the inlet valves to where those divers were at, right? Or even a tank, isolate means you turn off the valve, but then you clamp it. So you hear Daryl say lock out, tag out, and there's a real lock. Some of them lock with a key, right? But there's like a lock. So no adjacent contractor, no adjacent supervisor could come and say, well, why is this tank not filling? We keeping back production. I'm gonna turn it on, I'm gonna get a wrench. No, you can't, because the thing has been isolated, right? And with that one thing on the permit, if that was done, if the adjacent lines would have been isolated, nobody could have put it back on to create the suction to pull the guys and them inside there. You understand how a paper could save your life now? Folks, you understand how a paper could save your life now? And this is just number one. Well, I'll give you 4 from the book, but I'll give you about 8, right? I'll write them on this slide. I just want to tell you, right, that one thing could have saved them. 3.8 is our next one. If you have a book at all, you could go down to 3.8 on a permit. One of the things you must have is emergency rescue. How could you be in a dive and not have emergency rescue? How could you not be waiting for the Coast Guards to come? Right? Without I don't know if I want to tell any folks, a permit, when you see the word systematic, when you see the word systematic, you have to follow all the numbers then. Systematic meaning order. So let's just say number 1 was the task, right? Number 2 is isolate. About number 8 on that permit is you must have emergency rescue. And if you don't have emergency rescue, you are not to sign that permit. Watch it, the third one. Sign confirmation of the persons on completion of the work before the next part of the work can continue and so on, right? So everybody, the divers, the rescuers, the whole watch, the supervisor, everybody have to sign that everything is in place, right? But what I told you, what they were doing, the dive was done, and when they come out, then everybody was signed. The host of that inquiry into the deaths of those divers was from the UK. Again, this is not a secret. His name is Mr. Lynch, right? And he was shocked. He was like, how could this have happened? How could, and the thing is, you know what was strange, folks? I ever tell you what was strange? Well, I mean, this whole thing is strange. You know, like I said, the father of one of the divers was actually charged, you know, the owners of LMCS. His son died in that, you know. And he get charged with his son, death. So when I say strange, the whole thing is strange. Again, this is public knowledge. This is Front News of the Express newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago. The managers, directors, PARI and LMCS, they have been charged. So the man get charged for the death of his own son, right? But I mean, it's strange because a lot of things happen. And I was going to tell you what was strange. I mean, there's so much of strange things, right? There's so much of strange things. Because look at man's from out of that line in her and was going back in and they prevent him from going back in. Right? One of them survived, right? You know what strange I was telling you all, and this is from an academic standpoint, from a teaching standpoint. Do you all know that the safeties in that overlooking that dive were from this school? I could call them by name, but I can't do that on air. Do you know that they were my students? And I teach them this the same way for years now and telling people don't take chances. You know, like if you are the safety, you all holy rain a man, right? You could have saved somebody's life. I know one of them, he have 2 kids himself, right? He have to live with that. He seem to be doing okay, right? You as a safety member, when how could you as a safety not follow the permit to work? How could it be, right? Let me see what I tell you again. All of them, all of the safeties in that company who was overlooking that dive was either current student or past NEBOR students. But you get out there with the certificate in your hand now, but you're not making a difference. Well, you had to live with it. You had to live with the debt. When your son turned 9 years or 10 years, somebody son didn't. You had to live with it. Right? That's the thing about doing safety. Safety have money in it, but if you only study the money, right, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Right? Like for those who know me, I mean, you know, I own the business here, right? But I was a teacher before I was an owner, right? I started off teaching, yeah, in Sipara Senior Sec. For those of us who know Sipara Secondary, I don't know if they call it the same thing now. Sipara Comprehensive. I taught in Palisico, if for anybody way down on that side. I think Daryl is down on that side. I taught Palisico, the government school, but that was when it was a wooden building. It's a fully concrete structure now anyway, right? And you know, so the thing is, you know, we want to make a difference, right? I mean, like, it was shameful to see my students being interviewed on this commission of inquiry, and you know, they saying, well, they had to say the truth. The truth was they didn't follow the permit. You couldn't lie. The thing is, the permit was not filled out before. If you had done one simple word, which is, and then watch how much thing the permit have on it. If you did the one thing of isolate, you know, that would not work. So what about emergency rescue? Right? Anyway, so these things exist to control high risk tasks. A permit have a limited time period. Just check your book a bit, you'll see there's a word called cancellation. And what that means is that because a high risk space is not meant to live, you're not there forever now. Plus, at the same time, I don't know if you understand what I meant by that. Like you're not meant to stay on top of a pole then. So it have a limited time. They may say, okay, the permit have 20 minutes to get up on the electrical pole and to change whatever you have to change, right? Or yes, you may have welders in a tank. I don't know if you all know how they do it, but they're in the tank for only like 20 minutes. So like once the 20 minutes has expired, they have to come out and another welder will go in, or 30 minutes, because of the risk of asphyxiation and the heat and stuff of the tank. If you know about reformers, vessels, it's very hot. It's not just about oxygen, but the heat as well is very bad. If you're in a metallic tank or a reformer, it's very, very bad, right? So some companies, you know, you sweat down, as how they say, wet, as we would say. Um, you know, if that's a condition, the permit may have, like the workers could have a rotation of maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. There's another reason for half an hour being the max. I don't know if anybody knows. Anyone knows why half an hour may be the max as well? Half an hour is kind of pushing it if you're in a reformer, if you're in a vessel, in a pipeline. Half an hour is plenty, yeah? But anybody knows another reason why they may limit it to half an hour, other than heat and, you know, you're having difficulty. Yes, you may be breathing, right? Because you have the CMA on the self-contained breathing apparatus, but why is like 30 minutes for most companies the max, and then they'll take you out and have another team going or whatever? It have to do with, just now as somebody coming in, it have to do with two things, but it have to do with let me see if anybody gets it. Okay, we'll talk about the diploma cost and stuff in a bit, right? Anybody knows the reason for the 30 minutes? But it have to do with the oxygen availability. Remember, if you have the tank on your back, right, which is like the air tank, that's only good for 45 minutes. I don't know if you know that. The supply of air, breathable air, on the typical size of like what a fireman would have is only good for 45 minutes. So they'll try to get you out in half an hour because to have a 50 minutes leeway of oxygen then, right? In addition to that, well, everybody who is using a SIBA, which is not you, you are the safety. We don't really do those kind of work then. We supervise it, right? We should have made sure the guys in them had it, right? But the other reason is that sometimes somebody may breathe a bit deeper. There's something called tidal breathing. It's a long story here to tell it. But if you're going into a confined space as a worker, you have to be trained to breathe in the respirator then, or the self-contained breathing apparatus. Not really a respirator, right? So the self-contained breathing apparatus, you have to be able to, they have to train you to breathe in it. How do they train you? They put it on you, for those of us who don't know, but you're out in the open. Like you're just like this then. So you're just in an office like this, but they put you up at a SIBA. And you have to practice breathing normal. Because if you start to panic, you're breathing more then. You'll use all the oxygen that was meant for 45 minutes then, right? So they put it on you and they have you out in the yard and you just practice what is called tidal breathing. Tidal breathing is like normal breathing, but because you have this on, you do take in deeper breaths, you do give out longer exhalation, right? Anyway, those things should have been done, right? So because of that, the permit has a limited time period. So you all understand, a permit is not meant for extensive periods. And if the work isn't finished, you may have to issue another permit, right? If the permit was, let's say you said an hour to get into the tank, to kind of get some of the slush out of the tank, but you had it in different shifts. You had 3 shifts, maybe of 20 minutes each. And by the end of the hour, the BS in the tank, which is what they call sludge, but the common company workers just call it BS, right? So the sludge in the tank, the contractors wasn't able to get it out of there. You're gonna have to issue another permit because those guys in them, that 3 shift you have, those guys in them probably tired, right? You probably have to issue another permit, reassess the guys, check out the oxygen concentration, maybe because they took out some of the sludge, maybe you could power wash or the rest. Something have to be done, right? And if you're painting the tank, corrosion, whatever, all of those things, you have to issue another permit. If you see the time period of this permit, if it was 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, and the time has the time has gone, the work isn't finished, you have to reassess and you can issue another permit, right? So the permit should be displayed during the lifetime of the work. I wanted to take a note here on something. I guess based on the time and looking at the time, I guess we weren't finished, but that's because I'm kind of stressing on permit. And there's a reason for that. Permit is like the most tested question here anyway, right? Plus, we are talking about saving lives, right? So we shouldn't really hustle that up anyway, right? Anyway, so NEBOSH, not really NEBOSH, as you wrong to say again too. It's really not NEBOSH. Remember, these things are best practices worldwide. So normally what they want, if you're doing a permit, if your job requires a permit, every other contractor in and around you must get a copy of that permit. So I want you, I don't know if you write any notes anyway, but this should have been, but not should have been, but this could be amended to say this should be displayed during the lifetime and a copy of the permit must be given to adjacent contractors or contractors next to you. Again, now if that was done, then the line would not have been turned on to create this action. And again, if the line was isolated in the first place, that would not have happened, right? But if a copy of the permit is given to the other contractor to say, look, hey, down the line, they have some divers down there, right? So we know there is adjacent work going on. Then again, this is another way that it would have been able to save those divers and them, right? So the permit will cease to operate when the task has been completed. Here, what I'll do, let me try to finish off some stuff on this side. I did promise you some extra things, but I think I said some. I really wanted to give you more though, but the more mightn't be exam, the more is just me. So I'll try to give it at this at the end, right? Let's try to finish this one here anyway. At least finish one PowerPoint, right? So permit to work, details about isolation, shutting off water, whatever is your fuel source, your energy source, right? water, raw materials. It could be green. Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago, remember we have production in the manufacturing sector too. We have green, we have flour, we have milk, right? So whatever it is, if you're in a vessel that had green feed, they have to turn it off because it could actually drown from the green. If the green started getting back into your vessel and you're inside the vessel still, right? The permit should say how to do the job safely. All of them should. Remember, a permit is a safe system of work or a safe way of doing the job, right? Signature of managers authorizing the job and of people involved in each job step should be on the permit. Again, if one signature is missing, this is what we know the work cannot continue or the work cannot even start. We shouldn't say continue, right? In other words, and if which I did, I cleaned tanks, I told you all that, but not anymore, right? So if I was going to clean a tank, right, and I didn't like the fact that it didn't have a first aider outside, then I am not to sign that permit, right? Now, if I sign it and then one of the managers, the supervisors was supposed to be on site and he wasn't there, he called in, he's in traffic, we had to wait. We had to wait on him, right? This is madness center. What happened in Paris was madness center, right? You had to wait on him. This is how it's madness in a company. If you start work without all signatures being there, they will fire you, right? You'll get fired because you're mad, right? And that's what happened. Anyway, so I hope you understand that. So you have power too. The person going into the vessel, you have power if you're not happy. If you say, okay, like before you go into a vessel, you say, well, what was the last oxygen reading inside there? And they tell you the oxygen reading was 16. No, 16 is bad. It's supposed to be 19.5 to 21. 21 is best, right? So you could say to them, you are the worker, your life on the line. You could say to them, you're not going in inside there until you ventilate that tank. Ventilate means they have to pump air into the tank. They have to pump air into the tank and retest. Well, anybody should tell you that. Any safety should tell you that. But I'm just saying, if you was in a Paria company, right? And you now realize the tank don't have enough oxygen inside of it. Yes, you have on your CMA, but you want to make sure now, let's say something happen inside there. You don't want to die inside of the tank, right? So you can tell them ventilate the tank, right? And test again, test and see what's the oxygen concentration now. But the safety is supposed to do that, or you were supposed to do that when you're out there in the companies, right? I ever told you the story of Terrence. I'll make it short again. Terrence was with SEAX. If you all know the company called SEAX. Long story short, they had actually purged a tank in Atlantic LNG. And one of the Atlantic workers are going into the tank for some strange reason, and Terrence stopped them. Yeah, Terrence was, like one student of mine. This is a 10 years old story, yeah. More than 10 years, 2011, right? Yeah, Terrence stopped them. I know what Atlantic did. Anybody could remember if anybody heard this story before? Anybody know what Atlantic do? I'll give you some option. Did they fire Terrence? Did they fire their worker? Or did they reward Terrence? Anybody know what happened with that story?
Number 3.
Yeah, Atlantic gave Terrence $100,000. You know what Atlantic did? Atlantic LNG counted up how much money this man would have saved them. Of course, there's probably no way to put a value on human life, but this is a decade ago, right? More than a decade ago now. And they give Terrence $100,000. Some companies will see the value, say, you do your job, forget what will happen. Don't do it for money. But what I said, some companies do support you. Look, I know another one, Nevin, right? Nevin is in my diploma class. Long story short, again, this is in Guyana, but he's in Trinidad. The guy lives in Esperance, which is right around the corner from where my office is at, right? A worker had died in a vessel in Guyana. I'm making the story short, right? They were sending down another man in a similar vessel then, right? Oh, by the way, another one died in Guyana too. That's another story. But telling about Nevin, right? So Nevin is a Trinidadian on the vessel. He stopped the unsafe job. He stopped it. He said, no, he can't let it happen. The manager fired him. He was fired. He came back to Trinidad in the morning and he came in the office and he told me this story here. But by the end of the day, you know what happened? The parent company to that contractor called and asked Nevin to come back. Right? And I said, Nevin, you could go back in. But don't go back as a safety, go back as a man who fired you. Ask for that position, ask for the man who in charge. Because no, you don't want to go back as a safety and fight that same man all over again. You want to fight that same authority all over again. You want to be that authority. Now, if they take you back, ask for that position. Because you save them money and reputation there. Right? So you do your job. If you get paid for it, fine. But remember, you're saving a life. Remember that class, moral, legal, and financial. Emphasis there on the moral. Moral means it's the right thing to do. And companies out here would reward you. It might reward you one time, they might fire your skin there, as we say here in the Caribbean. But somebody will hear about you and they will say, well, if you could have done that for them, we want you to be our manager. How do you think I told you the story of Trinidad? How do you think Trinidad got you to be the safety in a company in the UK? That's a story for another day, though. But exactly how I said it, that's what they said. Having heard what you did, would you be our safety manager? Right? So anyway, the sky is the limit, folks. But what it takes to getting the certificate in your hand, right? Getting the certificate in your hand. And of course, when you get the cert in your hand, please hold the reins. Hold the reins of safety then. Save a life. Save your consciousness, right? All right. Signature and date of all persons involved after completion. Signature of inspection of the job after completion. The authorized person that gave you the permit, they have to sign to cancel the permit. If you check your book, the person that gives you the permit is also the one that cancels the permit. That's called the authorized permit, right? Types of permit, you saw this in your book, so we just shouted one or two of them. Electrical work, hot work, entry into confined spaces. Permit to excavate, right? They have a bit on confined space because your book had some of it. A confined space, the law, there's a law for this in the UK, the CSR 1997. It tells you what a confined space is. It's on the slides. If you hold on a bit, I'll show you some examples. The law says, if possible, work from the outside where reasonably practicable. You should do a formal risk assessment. You should have a safe system of work. You should have rescue arrangements in place, and you should have training in place. What is a confined space? This used to come before the pandemic, but they won't really ask you a definition anymore, right? But a space that is substantially closed and could give rise to a specified risk of injury from fire or explosion, unconsciousness due to rising body temperature, drowning, asphyxiation caused by free-flowing solids. There's a foreseeable risk from hazardous substances or conditions within that space. Examples of confined spaces could be like a tank, a pit, a silo, a vessel, a manhole, a subway system. All of those are examples of confined spaces, right? You need to do a formal risk assessment. You need to do the permit to work. I'll just kind of simplify these. And in the permit, we'll have the control measures to take to make that space safe, right? What are the things to consider in your risk assessment in a confined space? What is the hazard posed by the space that you're in? What was the previous contents of the space? Was it oil? Was it gas? Was it garbage? Is it like a sewer system then, right? For confined spaces below ground level, consider the ingress of leachate. Leachate is like the runoff from garbage. Consider oxygen deficiency, which occurs around 19.5. Consider the space layout. Does it have is it, like if you get down in a, you see, Trinidad doesn't have too much of this though, but if you get down in a ship, a vessel then, right? So do you now have to go horizontally? Because getting down is one thing, but if you have to go like 100 meters, 300 meters, 600 meters, right? 100 meters is like the distance. If you have trouble pitching like how far it is like the distance between two light pole and like T and Tech light pole. So like 100 meters, 300 meters, you know, if you have to go that far, because as you go certain distances, then gases could still settle. Like you might not have pick up methane if you did testing for methane on top of the, you know, like where you're tested from, like where you drop your meters, right? But methane could be way deep down into that cellar or that sort of system anyway, right? What is the emergency rescue procedure for the confined space, right? So suitable rescue must be implemented as soon as practicable when needed. Rescue arrangements should include reducing the risk during the rescue to the lowest reasonably practicable level, provision of resuscitation equipment when conditions required. Normally, I wouldn't advise anybody to get into any confined space without an ambulance being present, right? If anybody had told you this, have to get into a confined space, you must be trained, you must know how to breathe, you must know how to communicate. I don't know, again, if you all know how they do it now. It's very sophisticated now. So the best description I could give you is like somebody on, well, not somebody, but an astronaut. So an astronaut on the moon is able to communicate back with the bases at, well, wherever you have bases now, because you know you have SpaceX something now, right? So at NASA, SpaceX, all over the world, right? England have a space program. India has a space program. I think, yeah, the Soviet Union has a space program. So whoever astronaut is wherever, they are able to communicate back with their home base. And that is like what confined space is now. So somebody in a vessel, I don't know if you know, they have communication devices on them. They are just able to talk. You have the traditional walkie-talkies, but a lot of the things now, they have like a visor. You have it like a headphone then. I mean, it's so advanced now. You have like a visor. And what you are seeing, there's someone, this is in Trinidad, and there's somebody in the control room, which is like a doghouse, like a container, and they are seeing what you are seeing in that confined space, right? They have a camera, you have a camera, so they see what you seeing, and they are in constant communication with you. That's how they do now. They all talk with you. They ask you how you're going. I can't say all of the things here because some of it is not decent, but they try to kind of keep communication with the person in the vessel then. So if you see some grains on the ground, they may make a joke about that. You know, these kind of things that I can't say in class, right? But you know, so they kind of keep the person in communication all the time. There are actually devices on the person called man-down devices. A man-down device, folks, some of these are free. You know, I could talk on this whole day, looking at the time, because I have so much to say. Some of these are free. If you wonder what do I mean by free, there's an app for it. There's actually a lone worker device. You can get it on your app store, right? There is something called a man-down device. You can get it on free on your Play Store, right? But there's a real device. A man-down device is like if you were meant to stay vertical and you kind of slip, the device will give a warning to somebody on the outside, right? It's connected to like the person on the outside. There may be the ambulance services right there that said, okay, here what? I think the person fainted, right? You're talking to them and then all of a sudden it stopped. So you say, Roger, could you hear me? But in that time, the man down device I'm going off already. Please check it out for me. Please, somebody go on the Play Store. At your Play Store, if it's Android or, you know, iPhone. I'm not too sure which one is that one. But, you know, or the iOS, whichever one is your Play Store. Just put man down device free. Now you may wonder why. No, remember, it's not just for exam. Exam is one thing, people, right? Exam is one thing, but remember, you out there as a safety in a couple months. So your company say you are the safety, somebody going into a vessel, what you could do for us? The company don't want to buy nothing. Well, you could just take your phone and turn your phone into a man-down device. You sync the two phones, download the same app, and the person inside you could talk to them on your phone. Once it's not an explosive atmosphere, right? So once it didn't have any gas inside it, because your phone could be a source of ignition. Also, man-down devices are good for elderly families. You have a older grandparent or something, and you know, if that person falls at home, how are you going to get onto them? Did the person have a phone? You can get the man-down device. It's free. That's what I'm telling you, it's free to download, right? So not all these things are expensive. They are the ones you can purchase, but with technology today, your phone does a lot. Your phone could actually be a noise meter. Your phone could actually be a radiation meter. your phone could actually be a man-down device, right? So just look for the app. The day if anybody found it, please share it in the group so I'll know that somebody found it, right? I think I have to cut off here, right? Let me see if I can read out the last slide anyway. Okay, so that's it. Recap. I was hoping to finish the other one, but you all know, you all know me. Teaching is not just for teaching. Teaching is for saving life, right? And it's not just about, yeah, I wanted to hold the certificate, but I don't want it to end up like my students and them holding the certificate and not doing the right thing. I wanted to be like Nevin and I wanted to be like Terrence. I wanted to be like those of them who would actually stand up for safety. Because you're saving somebody's life. If you get some kind of benefit out of that, moral, legal, or financial, I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you, right? But do your job. You mightn't be everybody's friend, right? But do your job. Like I remember, like today, one of the safeties in SIS. Yes, SIS. You know, SIS is not too safe of a company, right? But one of the safeties today, he's a safety manager today, but he wasn't the safety manager 10 years ago, right? I wouldn't call his name, because this is a kind of, people may know him now, right? But I remember he told me a forklift was carrying some pipes, but they had the pipes, so long pipes now, like across the forks of the forklift like that, right? And they were in the road. They were in the road and on the Rivulet Road, if you know where SIS is anyway. And he went and he stopped them and he said, well, let's kind of get like an escort vehicle now in front of the fork because the pipes are going like that, right? Anyway, he said at the time, another manager, but this guy have that job now, right? Another manager came and hit him. Yeah, cuff him. Well, those of us on YouTube again, cuff is a punch, right? So punch him, right? He said the person come and punch him. So I said to him, what did you do? Let's just call him Jerry. His name is not Jerry, right? So I said, Jerry, what did you do when the man hit you? He said he punched back the man, he cuffed back the man. I said, Jerry, if you didn't hit that man, you'd have a real good law case against that man, right? From what happened, both of them had to apologize to each other and work was back to normal. Today, that man, Jerry, which is not Jerry, is the safety manager of that company, right? So you do your job. Of course, I'm not saying it will lead to those kind of things. I'm just telling you how culture is in the Caribbean. Those of us who may not understand what we are saying here, on the YouTube channel anyway, right? But I think everybody understands punch, right? But yeah, if he didn't hit back the man, he would have a good law case there. Today he would have been a millionaire. By now he would have spent all that money though, right? But I just telling you how it is, right? Folks, we have to stop. Again, like I said, I don't think there's any need to rush anything next week though. Look, I have chapter 9 here, and next week we'll start. Sorry, PowerPoint 9, right? PowerPoint 9. It's in chapter 9. PowerPoint 9 is right on my view screen here. But we didn't get to do it, right? Because I think the permit thing, went into that anyway. Right? Look, week 9 here. Well, 4.9, right? Not really week 9, right? So we'll finish this one next week. And we can actually start chapter 4, right? And that's still the first week in August anyway. Right? What I'll do though, consciously now of what has happened today, because I didn't finish chapter 3 today. What I'll do though, we'll probably kind of ease out some of the past papers and stuff. Like when we do this, I'll just mention it briefly and we try to get them out of the way, right? Let me stop the recording here. As you know, we don't call the record or the roll on air. We have 22 persons in today. I just seen it on the recording for NEBOSH. But again, based on what some of y'all may have messaged me and stuff, I don't want to kind of make that is confidential information, right? So the reason why you are not here, I think it still is confidential, right? So let me stop the recording and we'll get the roll out of the way.